Hi, welcome to Brady's Blunders, where I show you the mistakes in my games, hoping you don't make the same ones in yours. And this game that I'm going to look at today comes from the European Yunguseng Dojang, and I've been in that class for about a month now. So why don't I start off by giving my thoughts about it. Okay, so again, it's the European Yunguseng Dojang, and there is an American version, and they're both run by the same teacher, In-Sung Hwang. And so what do I think about it? Well, I like the program overall quite a bit. What do I like about it? Well, I like the teacher. In-Sung is a former Insei from Korea. And so not only is he a very strong player, he's actually a very good teacher. And he's not the kind of teacher who just, slaps you on the wrist and says, no, you did wrong. Instead, he's very good at explaining why it was wrong. Whether a move just is maybe slack, it wasn't severe enough, or bad reading, or applying one of his many principles. He's able to say why a move was bad. And I like that. Very much related to that, the second thing I like about is the attitude of the whole dojang. And that is, it's very serious and severe. And these are not peaceful territory surrounding games. In-Sung's attitude and all of his students is fight, fight, fight. Try to gain every advantage that you can. Fight for every point, fight for every liberty, and if your opponent makes a mistake, figure out how to take advantage of it. And not only is that approach to go more fun than just peaceful territory surrounding, I actually think it's the only way to get quite strong at Go, is to be severe, get good at reading, take advantage of every situation, eke every point out. So at any rate, I like the attitude of the whole group. Third, and I mentioned this in the previous video where I talked about it, he's got a great library of videos covering exactly what you'd expect. Tsuji and opening theory and some josekis, modern josekis. But it seems to me that his greatest focus is on local technique, how to think in a fight, and common shape to take advantages of your opponent's shape. Anyway, the video library is great, and I'm probably watching a 1-hour video just about every day. And I'll get through them all someday. And then finally, I like again, the seriousness of it, and it means that the games are meaningful, right? I find myself taking these games far more seriously than a typical KGS rated game. I really want to win, I really want to play well, and so do my opponents. And what that means is it's not exactly like the KGS games with the wild overplays that we so typically see, and it leads to games of higher quality. So while I'm not happy with how I've performed so far, I do like the program very much. Okay, let's get into this game because it was a pretty cool one. And today's video will be about the opening. And one of the things that In-Sung teaches is try to figure out what it is your opponent wants and try to figure out how to not let them have it. And you will see my opponent and I in this game both doing that from the beginning. So I'm white. And when I played here, my opponent approached here. And this isn't a random move or a bad move, right? Normally we want to play in the open corners first. But having seen variations of this and knowing who my opponent is and having watched a few of his games, what he was hoping would happen is an opening something like this, where he would build a nice framework, and then when I played here, he would attack me severely. Right? He would end up, no matter what stone I ended up playing, he would find a way to pincer it and make it heavy and take advantage from there. Okay? Since this is the opening he wants to play, I decided from the beginning to go ahead and prevent it. And I played here. And then it's only natural. He approached a 4-4 and I tanuki'd, so he went ahead and double approached. And I came out. And his next move was up here. So this is the first game problem, and there's only two today. If you were white, where would you play now? And go ahead and pause the video if you like to think about it. Okay, I'll bet you this is one that most or many of you get right. And I actually did too. And it turns out Black's Tanuki was a mistake. Black shouldn't have played up here. And I went ahead and played where Black should have played. And let me explain why. Let's look at the normal local continuation. Black counted advantage because he double approached my 4/4 stone. So now he can come into the center, or into the corner, and my group is floating a little bit. But he is sure to gain a connection with one stone or the other. Yeah, maybe both. And at this point, I would go ahead and take the upper left corner. So my mission of keeping him from getting the opening he wants is accomplished, but in no way is this a bad result for Black. This started out as White's area of influence, and now it's just kind of two floating stones, so it's pretty reasonable for Black. Okay, but when Black played over here and I played here, the situation is completely different. If I get this stone, now my corner is completely alive. I don't have to worry about life and death at all. I can make two eyes in here, even if he somehow completely surrounds me. So that's one benefit. A second benefit is this stone is weak. And the third benefit is this stone is weak. So I'm getting three things out of this. And Black's two stones actually look a little bit silly. And Black has time to help one of them, but not both. So Black went ahead and helped this stone. Well, lo and behold, he actually got the very formation that he wanted to make. And I don't, so here I'll show you what it was that he was trying to do from the beginning. He was hoping for this continuation, and you can see that very same shape. But this corner over here is very natural, right? It leans white, but Black hasn't wasted any stones or doesn't have any stones that are inefficient. So this is actually a normal opening and fair for both sides. But if we go to the real game, then we can see that Black has exchanged a stone here that he'd really rather not. I got the 3/3, which was open in the other variation, and he got this stone, which can be a target. So if the other formation was fair and equal for both sides, you'd have to say that this formation is better for White. So far, so good. I'm happy with the opening. All right, then I approached here, and this is a very common approach to this formation. So we call this the Kobayashi. This Black stone can be here or here. And he's got support of this stone over here. So I need to be, let's say, careful. And if I go ahead and I play close, then he's going to end up pincering that stone and it's going to get heavy. So I went ahead and played further away. All right. Now when Black played here, let me show you what would be a result that I wouldn't mind so much. My descending, his coming up, my moving up, and his going ahead and laying claim to the left side, and then my extending along the top. Now Black's formation along the left side is pretty good, so he's got nothing to be unhappy for, but the reason I'm not unhappy is I'm settled, right? So it's still a very balanced game. I didn't make a heavy group. Let me get into that for just a moment. My concern, and again, knowing my opponent's characteristics, is that if I play this stone, instead of just taking territory, my opponent would counterattack. He would pincer. And I'm not going to die. I'm not even in that much trouble. But the odds are that while Black puts pressure on these stones, he's going to go ahead and get the left side anyway. Maybe a little bit less. I don't know what the continuation would be. Maybe it would be something like this. And, again, there's a million possibilities, but you can see that, I still don't have sure eyes yet. And the reality is, as he puts pressure on me, he's actually going to be helping the top and the right side as well. So, I don't know. I don't think this is an attractive result for White. So instead of playing this way, I went ahead and took away the pincer. Does that make sense? Right? I played approximately where I figured he wanted to play anyway. And this isn't a move I invented. I actually think Lee Chang-ho invented this move. So I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just trying to explain how it works a little bit. And again, the idea is that if black goes ahead and plays where he thinks I should have played, then I can keep making a light shape over here. And if black answers this way, now I can come back and start to address the left-hand side. So this would be a pretty good success for me. And this is what I was hoping for. But again, my opponent didn't want to give me what I was hoping for either, and he came here, which is a move I've not seen before. And my initial hope is that it was a mistake, and I considered pushing this way. But then I decided that if black gets this, yeah, I may be able to live with this group, right? I may be able to safely get out or live in the corner with this group. But if I do it in Gote and black gets to pincer this stone, then black has moved his territory and his power somewhere else. And actually this looks pretty good for black. So although I really wanted this move, I didn't think I had time to play it right now. So I just went ahead and played the move I was going to play anyway, figuring that black was just going to come back and play here. But again, he wasn't so obliging, and he played like this. All right, so I looked at the board for a while and tried to figure out what the best continuation was. And I figured that these stones are pretty much okay. And I played here. All right, I'll show you my secret plan. And my hope was that black would play like this. And then I could come up like this, and things are going to get difficult for him. And obviously there's many variations, but here's one of the ones that I read, right? So when I play this, I'm threatening to capture and cut on a lot of sides. If black plays this, it's starting to capture those two white stones, and it reaches out to these black stones, so that would make sense. But then I can play this way. At this point, black probably needs to help these two stones to make sure that these stay captured. And I can play a sequence like this, come back, make him finish off those two stones before coming out this way. And here, then I would have disrupted black's formation, which is what I really want to do. So black is still getting pretty good territory on the left, but now these three stones have gotten a lot weaker, and I'm out and safe. So this was what I was hoping would happen. Needless to say, my opponent did not oblige, and he just fell back and took the corner. So this is the second game problem, and one I most definitely got wrong. If you were white, where would you play now? Okay. I really, really wanted this move. Right? I wanted to make these two black stones weak. But again, I knew I couldn't take it right away because he's just going to be cutting me apart, and his black stones aren't that weak after all. So doing it right now wouldn't work. But that's what I really wanted to do. And I decided that I would go ahead and fall back here. And if he went ahead and helped those two stones, then I would play here or maybe here and begin to attack these two stones, or at least make them uncomfortable. So that was my plan. But it wasn't a good plan because my opponent had a really good counterattack, and he played here. And this move is super annoying. And I looked at it for a long time trying to figure out the best counter. One of the reasons it's good is because now these two black stones have two areas they can connect to, right? They can connect to this stone, or they can connect on the outside to this. So they're not really in much danger anymore, right? That's one advantage that this move does. But the other one is, even though it's high up and on the fifth line, it starts to claim the left-hand side. You know, I can't play a move like this, claiming the left-hand side, because he can do something like this. And it's not going to be easy for me to fight over here. So it was a really clever move, and one I certainly didn't see coming. And I had no good continuation locally. I couldn't find one, so I just came out. And so at this point, you can see, okay, yeah, these black stones are separated. So he said, fine, I'll just take the corner. I took one forcing move to connect, and then turned, and then black went ahead and took the left-hand side. So what do we think of this result? Well, let's look at it from black's perspective first. He got a really big corner in the upper left. That's not only big, it's also out. So that's pretty good for him. And on the left-hand side, that's beginning to look a lot like cash to me too. The one thing he was frustrated about is that he finished in gote. And while that might be technically true, because I tanuki'd, it shouldn't have been. Because when Insang reviewed the game, he said, yeah, white's out and maybe theoretically doesn't need to continue, but he just hates how confined white feels and that any move by black in the area is white's going to have to answer, and he would spend an extra move right away. So then black would have all three. He would have had a big corner, a side that's basically territory, and sente. So pretty good for black. And what's the result for white? Well, I got a heavy group out of the deal. And I don't know, I hope you remember, when I played this move, remember my goal was I don't want a heavy group. One way to think about who's winning the opening is the person who doesn't have a heavy group. And so here we are, and move 27, and I'm heavy. This is good for black. Okay, so what should I have played? My mistake was thinking that this was sente and he would play over here. It wasn't, and he didn't. And instead, I should just go ahead and play over here. And I should treat both of these stones as the forcing moves that they were, right? Black has answered this move 3 times, in effect. And he's answered this move once. So it's okay for me to say, all right, these moves have already served their purpose, and hopefully I can find a way to make them useful later, but there's no reason to force the issue right now. Just go ahead and play away. Play in the most open part locally. This move threatens to take away the base for these black stones, and it's easy for white to move out. And then once I've moved out, obviously it's going to be very easy for me to then make a comfortable shape by reactivating these stones. So if black wants to waste his time killing these two stones for sure, that's fine. I'll have moves on other part of the board that are probably even bigger. So treat them as forcing, treat them lightly, move along. Anyway, lots of ideas in this video, one of which is try not to make a heavy shape in the opening. Another one of which is try not to do what your opponent wants you to do. Try to make him change his plans instead of the other way around. Black, when he did the double approach, needs to take advantage right away. By not taking advantage, he not only loses the advantage he would have had, but actually gets a disadvantage. So this shape looks funny for white, but is really good for white. There was quite a bit of optimistic reading by me up here. So instead of making a heavy shape, I really needed to play even more lightly. And then the game would still be pretty good. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.